Hey, I'm talking about how you can give birth naturally at the hospital. I'm Annabelle, RN, BSN, birth doula, and mama, and I'm here to build your confidence in birth. If this content interests you, then subscribe to my channel and ring the bell to stay up to date to my latest content. Today I'm going to talk about 5 ideas surrounding birth that can change the way that you give birth in the hospital setting. So, understanding your body, your baby, and the hospital that you're walking into will really help you overcome any obstacles that you just don't really know about yet, and you can tackle them and say, I know this is coming at me, and I know that I can give birth naturally in the hospital setting. A lot of moms don't understand this why beforehand, and so as they head towards birth, they say, yeah, I think I want to do it naturally, but they don't understand what's on the other side of that, the hospital and their thought processes and what they're used to doing, all of these different interventions. And so I want you to know about these things now so that you can take your why, this is why I want to give birth naturally, and fit it together with all these pieces of why the hospital does these interventions. So number 1, this idea that birth is risky and dangerous and really shouldn't be allowed to just happen naturally. Birth is a normal process, and it is a beautiful thing that the woman's body is capable of doing. And so this idea of all these interventions and we need to monitor mom closely and make sure we do this, and this because birth is not normal, that is not true, but this is how hospitals and doctors approach birth. And it is good because it saves a lot of lives, but at the same time, it can change the way that a mom births. And so if you can take into consideration, no, birth is normal and I'm going to let my body do what it was created to do, but I want someone there monitoring me in a very standoff way so that if a complication arises, then I can be taken care of. That is a good, healthy way to approach birth. So like I said, it's normal, but what does mom need to do? What is your part in making sure that the process happens normally? Well, mom needs to be healthy in her pregnancy. This means mentally and physically. So how is mom approaching birth? How is she handling her stress level in pregnancy? How well is she sleeping? Physically, how is mom eating? Is she eating a good, healthy diet? Is she taking her prenatal? Is she getting good exercise and sleep? These are things that can help birth happen more naturally and normally with less complications. The second thing is, does mom have birth support? This is so important. Mom needs a birth coach continuously through her labor process. Someone that is encouraging her with words, is helping her get into different positions, helping her listen to her body and breathe very effectively through her contractions. And thirdly, mom does need a skilled birth attendant that's close by to make sure that if a complication were to arise, that skilled birth attendant, that OBGYN or that certified nurse midwife is there to take action appropriately. So understanding that mom can go into birth knowing that it's a normal process. Number 2, this idea that pain has no purpose and why should the modern woman be coerced or encouraged or told that she should go into labor and feel the pain. Well, this idea that pain has no purpose has been debunked. There is plenty of research to show that pain in labor is very beneficial to mom and to baby. For one, the bonding that happens through this pain. Just think about when you have worked so hard for something, how accomplishing that reward feels at the end. If you've had a really hard work week, but you have accomplished a lot, and that bonus that maybe you get at the end, or you have trained for a marathon, and after you actually run the marathon, what it feels like to say, I did this, my body was capable, and I accomplished this. So as a mom going through the process of labor, understanding that you can cope with that pain and at the end of it feeling accomplished. There's a lot of bonding that happens through the pain of labor to feel like, oh my goodness, I'm holding my newborn baby and we are bonding. And this isn't just a thought process that is what we would call logical. Yeah, it's logical that I worked hard and now I'm holding my reward. But there are actually chemicals being released, oxytocin and endorphins, that are giving you this pleasure sensation. So without that pain in the brain, we don't necessarily have the same amount of pleasure. And so that bonding that happens with your baby, the pain actually has an amnesic effect, which is amazing. You talk to moms that have given birth naturally and they say, yeah, I remember that it was very painful, but I also remembered that at the end of it, I was elated. I just felt good and accomplished, and they start to forget the pain. And that is documented in research that oxytocin that is being released actually has an amnesic effect. So through this pain, for mom to cope adequately, again, she needs a good birth coach and she needs a good team. So mom needs to be confident in herself and in her team. She needs to have the correct comfort measures to be able to say, okay, I can cope with this. So comfort and confidence, and then also privacy. For mom to be able to cope with this pain in labor, she needs privacy in her own home as she goes through labor. And then when she gets to the hospital, she really needs to make sure that her room is similar to home, that the lights are dimmed, that curtains are pulled and the door stays closed, and nurses and techs and doctors are only coming in if absolutely necessary. So mom needs that privacy for her brain and her body to feel like this is a safe environment for my baby to be born into. And that goes way beyond our conscience. It goes down into our primal brain, where do we feel safe? Even if we're consciously saying, of course I'm safe, I'm in a good setting, but does your primal brain feel like it is a safe environment? Quiet, dark, nobody's watching you, and you feel safe. Number 3, medication used in labor has no harmful side effects to mom or baby. And this is just not true. We know that medications for mom in labor affect mom and baby, specifically after birth. We see that baby has difficulty bonding and breastfeeding. And in my opinion, this is harmful. Bonding in the first few hours after birth is extremely important for short-term and long-term bonding between mom and baby. And establishing breastfeeding in the first hour is very important for the success of breastfeeding for the 6 months or 12 months that mom decides to breastfeed. And breastfeeding gives baby the great nutrients that he or she needs. And so I definitely see this as a harmful side effect. We want moms to bond and start breastfeeding as soon as possible after birth. Specifically talking about epidurals and the medications used in epidurals, the medications have side effects such as dropping mom's blood pressure, and this can cause fetal distress. And so in the hospital, we see fluids given. So we see mom's blood pressure dropping, and so nurses give moms fluids to increase their blood pressure. Well, we can still see fetal distress in the situation, and a lot of times moms go to C-section for the reason of fetal distress. We can see moms get epidural headaches or other complications that are just not desirable. But I specifically want to talk about the cascade effect that can happen with epidurals. Moms ask for epidurals and they are placed in the bed. They cannot move. They're numb from the uterus down usually. That is the purpose of an epidural. It doesn't happen with every mom. Sometimes moms say it just didn't work at all, but we want moms to be numb with the effect of epidurals. That is the purpose. And so mom is placed in bed with cords and monitors and everything to watch mom and baby very closely. Well, I've talked in several videos about the importance of mom getting up out of bed, listening to her body, moving in different positions to get baby into the right position inside the pelvis. And mom can't necessarily do this. So this can lead to baby not progressing down into the pelvis, the cervix not opening in an efficient manner, mom possibly can't push effectively, and so that could possibly lead to an assisted birth or a C-section. And that's not desirable at all. And so this idea that medications in labor have no negative side effects, I believe is a wrong thought process because of these different things that can come up, especially when we're talking about mom's birth memory and having a good birth memory and having the birth that she desires. And I know that I hear from a lot of moms that C-sections save lives and epidurals are okay. And this is what is taught in the medical world. But I just want to bring this idea to you with all these different side effects that can happen, and you can make that decision yourself. But I don't want you to be at home and wondering why there's all this talk about epidurals and C-sections and why some people say they're bad and some say they're good. You get to decide. Here's the information for you. Number 4, medical interventions are necessary for a safe birth. So what are medical interventions? Because if we're going to talk about if they're safe or not, we need to know what they are. Well, this can range anywhere from you wear a gown when you're in labor all the way to a C-section. So medical interventions is anything that would happen to you in the hospital setting. So you need to wear this gown. You cannot eat or drink during labor. You need your blood drawn and an IV placed in your arm and fluids given to you the entire time. You need a monitor on your belly monitoring baby the entire time through labor. Baby's not doing well, we need to take you to C-section. So these are all medical interventions, and there's a whole lot more, and you need to know, first off, that you get to be a part of this decision making. A lot of moms feel like medical interventions just happen and it was all for the safety of mom and baby, and so mom had no say-so in the matter. I want you to know that you have the power to stop the room and ask questions. Why are you doing that? Is that necessary? Can we go a few more minutes and see if labor progresses? Do I really need that? So I'm first going to talk about the gown, because I know I hear a lot of moms say they made me wear a gown and I didn't want one and I just felt like a sick patient and I was uncomfortable, and why did I have to wear a gown? You do not have to wear a gown in the hospital. You can wear whatever you want. You can be completely naked while you labor, whatever you want to wear. You don't have to feel like they are making you wear a gown. And the second thing I want to talk about is not being able to eat or drink in labor. If you do not have an epidural, and you say, I want to go as natural as possible, I want to be up and moving, labor takes a lot of energy and I need fluids, you can say, I want to eat and drink in my labor process. My body needs it, and so I'm going to do it. This idea that a lot of moms say, I want to give birth at home because I was not allowed to eat or drink in my last birth. That does not have to happen. And so you can tell your nurse, or you cannot tell your nurse. You can just bring the snacks you need and eat and drink as you will. They might have you sign a form saying that you're taking that responsibility, but you have that option. The question is, if you eat and drink and you have food and fluids in your stomach and they have to take you to C-section, you could possibly aspirate and have a lot of complications happen after that. Well, research actually shows that no matter how many hours have gone by since the last time you ate or drank, you still are going to have remnants of food in your stomach, plus you have gastric fluids, and you can still aspirate on these things. And so whether you eat or drink does not really determine if you will have complications from aspiration in C-section. But if you don't have a C-section, how did you feel in labor? Did you feel like you were hungry and thirsty and you weren't allowed to drink? So make that decision for yourself. These interventions can be discussed, you can anticipate them, and you can say, okay, the hospital needs to adjust to what I want, and I can adjust to some things that they might want as well. My fifth idea surrounding birth is that C-sections are very safe and they don't really have any big risk factors. This is absolutely not a good idea surrounding birth. C-section is major abdominal surgery, and so moms and physicians should go into the idea of C-section with a lot of trepidation, truly. They should really look at it and say, is this absolutely medically necessary? And again, I know a lot of moms, I've seen comments and had comments and people tell me, well, you just don't understand. C-sections save lives, and I was in a very bad situation. I was in danger, my baby was in danger, and we had to have a C-section. And I want you to know that I have so much compassion for you, and I understand your situation. I am not putting C-section under the bus. It is very successful in saving lives. But the question is, are too many moms having C-sections? And that is what research is starting to show, is that 1 in 3 moms that are laboring are actually going for C-section, and probably not for an emergency situation. The biggest reason we see C-sections happening is what is called failure to dilate or failure to progress. And that means that baby just wasn't really in the right position possibly, and the labor process slowed down. Mom was in active labor, things were going great maybe, and all of a sudden the cervix just wasn't opening anymore. Baby couldn't come down the birth canal, and it looked like after several hours that baby just was in distress, wasn't doing well. Well, the question is, why wasn't baby doing well? Was mom just maybe not listening to her body and getting in a different position to help baby maneuver down her pelvis? Was baby hitting a bony prominence in mom's pelvis and just couldn't really come down successfully? And did mom and the doctor have a part to play in that? And a lot of times that is true, that moms were in bed laboring and baby just needed mom to get up and move her pelvis so that he or she could come down successfully and really be born the way that mom desired. And so I want to encourage you with this idea of C-section, that if your doctor says it's an emergency situation, you can still stop the room and ask, what is the reason for this? And even before you get to that point, doing all of the things that you know are good for your body and in your labor process that can prevent you even getting to the point of C-section might be a possibility. So making sure that you're moving a lot throughout your labor process, that you're doing different coping techniques and moving your pelvis, that you're walking, that you're squatting, that you're over your birthing ball, that you're bouncing on your birthing ball, you're doing hip movements, circular movements on your birthing ball. And I have a lot of videos with this content that will help you in your labor process. But I do want to give you that idea that C-section is not always the best option. It's major abdominal surgery with a lot of risks for mom and baby. So these are my 5 ideas surrounding birth, and I hope that they really just start you thinking about the hospital setting, that you can give birth naturally in the hospital setting. You are the captain of your ship. You get to stop and ask questions and say, you know, I really want to work around this. I don't know if that's going to work for me and my baby. This is my birth, and I get to have the birth memory that I desire. If you are interested in a natural birth, if you're like, yes, this is for me, or if you're just asking questions still, I want to offer you my free workbook in the description below. This is my 4-step process to a natural birth. So check it out in the description below, and I will see you in the next video.